Welcome everyone to the Win-Win Wealth Strategy launch party. 7 investments the government will pay you to make. This is Tom Wheelwright, your host, author of the book and host of this show, and very, very happy to have you guys with me today. So thankful for everybody. We have a huge team that is behind this book, a huge team promoting it, a huge team helping me write it. I do write my own books, but that doesn't mean that it's not a team effort. Definitely shout out to people like Mona Gambetta, number one, Michael Eden, also number one, and everybody else who's just been so supportive, so helpful. Of course, my amazing wife, Luann. So grateful to have all of you here. Grateful to an amazing team effort. It's been a wild year, writing and then publishing and releasing this book. So thanks so much for doing this. We have some terrific guests today. I have my close friend, Mike Dillard, who is coming on shortly. And then we have they're all friends, but another friend, Brad Sumrock, who is actually featured in the last chapter of the book, The Win-Win Wealth Strategy. And then we have Ben Kinney, who's one of my inspirations. He is the founder of Place and one of the largest real estate agencies in the world. So just very excited to have just amazing guests, so much support, and thanks so much. Alicia, Haley, you guys are great. Manny, everybody just so appreciative of all the efforts. I mean, it's hardly a one-man show. So this is a lot of work. So thank you, Adam, for your comments. And Lauren's been amazing. And Rudy is one of our just terrific supporters, and really appreciate everything that you guys are doing. So before Mike gets on it, I did want to just give you a little bit of the background of the book, a little bit of why I wrote this book. The book is, I find books to take about 5 years to put together. That's about how long my first book, Tax-Free Wealth, took to put together. And then, when I sit down and write it, it takes about a month. But actually getting the thoughts together, getting the whole thing put together is quite a process. And thank you, Chicken Charlie. Got his yesterday, halfway done reading. Post that review on Amazon. Give us those 5-star reviews on Amazon as soon as you get into the book and get that book on Amazon. Please go ahead and post a 5-star review. We have over 3,000 for Tax-Free Wealth. We'd love to have 30,000 for Win-Win Wealth. But let me just tell you a little bit about this book. I originally started writing it with the title 7 investments the government will pay you to make, because what was very clear to me is that the tax law is not just about reducing taxes. I've long said, you've heard me say this in Tax-Free Wealth and other times, that the tax law is about really an instruction guide to reducing wealth. It's a series of incentives. What I wanted to write about is that the tax law is also an amazing guide to building wealth. It's not just a guide to reducing taxes. It's an amazing guide to building wealth. Then along came 2020. And not only did we have a pandemic, we had an election. And during 2020, there was a lot of discussion, 2020, 2021, and into this year, a lot of discussion about the rich not paying taxes, about, the rich are cheating on their taxes. And I took exception to that. I've been a CPA for over 40 years, and I've represented a lot of very wealthy people, and I don't know one of them that has been a cheater. Okay. I've not found wealthy people to cheat. They don't need to cheat. And so, I was actually pretty offended and pretty upset about the whole commentary about, tax the rich. And so what I did was, in this book, besides talking about some investments, I go, okay, let's look at the government side of this. Let's look at, what does the government get out of these tax incentives. Okay, we all know there are tax incentives. We all use them. If you ever bought a house, you know that you've got a, thanks, Flores. You know if you bought a house that you got a tax deduction for your mortgage interest and your taxes. You know if you sent your kids to college, you got a tax credit for sending them to college. So everybody knows that there are tax incentives and everybody utilizes them. Nobody ever turns down a tax incentive. I've never met one person, even those who say tax the rich, to turn down a tax incentive. What I think most people don't understand is that why we have tax incentives and what does the government get out of these tax incentives and where are the biggest tax incentives, and especially where are the biggest tax incentives where you can build wealth while reducing your taxes. So as I'm looking at this, it really dawned on me that, we get a choice. Now we don't get a choice of whether we play the game of taxes, and we don't get a choice of whether the government wins. The government is always going to win. Unless we cheat, the government wins. What we do get a choice of is whether we're a silent partner with the government or an active partner with the government. What we do get to choose is what's our role in the tax game. Is our role to be subservient and, as my friend Robert Kiyosaki says, be a tax mule, which you can be, and there's nothing wrong with that. The government's very happy to take your money. Or would you rather be an active partner where the government wins and you win? So that's where the win-win wealth strategy, that's where the title came from. My great publisher, Wiley, a big thank you to Wiley for the amazing work they've done in really getting this to press quickly and doing a great job with it. It's a beautiful, beautiful book. And we came up with the title, The Win-Win Wealth Strategy. And I love this title because this is what this book is about. It's about, okay, we know the government's going to win. The government, just think about it. The government makes the rules. The government enforces the rules. The government judges the rules. The government can even change the rules anytime they want. So we're kind of at a disadvantage there. So what we can do is we can understand the rules. Thank you, Ryan. So we can understand the rules. When we can understand the rules of the game, we can play the game better. When we understand the rules of the game, we can win as well as the government wins. So what I did was when you get your book, you're going to see that I actually ran both the taxpayers strategy, which similar to like I did in tax-free wealth. In addition, though, I ran the government strategy. And what does the government get out financially? Here's what's fascinating. Of the 7 investments, 6 of them, the government gets tremendous returns on their investment. Tremendous returns, most of the time greater than the taxpayers' returns. And I think that's pretty an amazing result. And I was not expecting it. I had no idea, what does the government get out of this? I was a little surprised. The 7th one, which is retirement plans, which everybody takes advantage of and nobody complains about. Oh no, this is something that only the rich get. No, everybody gets it. By the way, everybody can get all 7. But the retirement, that's one where the government doesn't win. They basically break even. So the one that I find it fascinating, that the one investment where it is, everybody says, well, this is fine. We're good with this. We like retirement plans. We like our 401ks. We like our pension plans. We like our profit sharing plans. This is all okay. This is not a loophole. This is not something else that is any kind of thing nefarious. I mean, nobody ever complains about this. This is the one the government doesn't win on. I find that fascinating. Now, does the taxpayer win? Absolutely. Absolutely. The government breaks even. And I run those numbers. Okay. We ran those numbers in the Win-Win Wealth Strategy in the chapter 8 on retirement plans. So, look at each of these. Here's what you're going to find. You're going to find that there are, not everybody should be doing everything. I mean, for example, one of the 7 investments is agriculture. I don't want to be a farmer. In fact, I kill plants. My wife is a green thumb. Everything grows. Every single thing grows. Thanks, Gary. Thanks for reading it. Thanks for giving us that review on Amazon. Really appreciate that. So, agriculture, would it be fun to have a vineyard? Yep. I would love a vineyard. I love a great glass of red wine, but I'm probably not going to do it, right? That's probably not going to be my strategy. So you're going to find at least one of these strategies. Now, some of you will find a way to use multiple strategies. For example, and this is one of the beautiful things about these 7 investments, is that you can use multiple strategies. So for example, you might use the business strategy, and you might use real estate, you might use debt, and you might use clean energy, renewable energy. You might use all of those together. What's fascinating is that, and I use that word fascinating a lot, because this whole book, just putting it together, writing it, collaborating on it, and researching it, was really just absolutely stunning. I learned so many lessons. What we did was, we actually look at 15 countries. This is not a U.S. tax book. This is not a U.S. book. Thanks, Lauren. Thank you so much. So excited to have you read the book. And thanks, Jessica. Jessel says, Tax-Free Wealth is one of the few books I finished from back to back. Win-Win Wealth will be another one, I'm sure. But the 15 countries, so we took countries in Asia, South America, we looked at Australia, we looked at Europe. And what we found is that the tax incentives are remarkably similar. Now, I had suspected that because I've traveled the last 15 years with my friend Robert Kiyosaki. We've traveled all over the world, teaching financial education on 6 different continents. And every time I get to read up on the tax law of the country we're going to, whether it's Romania or the UK or China or Japan, Singapore, wherever it is, so that I can be ready for it, right? And ready for the presentation. And I've always found that the tax law is remarkably similar. I had no idea how similar. If we did charts, we've got charts and tables. We have 15 countries. We all have 150 endnotes on those 15 countries. By the way, TJME Investment says, when will it be in audio? It is in audio today. It is available today on audio. In fact, somebody reported to me yesterday that it's actually released early on audio. So you can go get it, listen to it on audio. I do know the audio has become the way people read books. They typically listen to books. I've not listened to this book in audio. I did not read it, but I understand that the person who read it was amazing, professional, widely hired a true professional. So thank you, Bran. Really appreciate that. Thanks for letting me know. This is, I do this for you guys. This is a work of love. I will tell you, I think that we can change the world. And you think about, well, what do you mean? How do you change the world by saving taxes? Well, I think you change the world in a couple of ways. First of all, I think that we change the world. I think entrepreneurs change the world every day. I think entrepreneurs change the world every single day. And I love the energy of entrepreneurs. When I started my first CPA firm, it's close to 30 years ago. The first CPA firm I started after I'd worked for one of the big accounting firms and worked for a Fortune 1000 company. When I started I had 2 goals in mind. One was that I wanted my staff to love coming to work, because I didn't always love coming to work as an employee. And the second one was that I wanted to deliver consulting to entrepreneurs that they were never getting. And now I get the opportunity to not just deliver that consulting to our clients. We have 60 CPA firm members in our Wealthability network of CPA firms. And so we do get to deliver it to clients. I love that I get to deliver it to the world, and I get to deliver it all over the world. So be great to, yeah, thank you. Please share this live stream. Get this out there. We need to change the world. Look, let's think about the last couple of years, and let's think about a couple of things over the last couple of years. First is, let's think about what would have happened had we not had Amazon. Okay. Jeff Bezos and Amazon, they get regularly slammed. They didn't pay taxes for many, many, many years. They don't pay a whole lot of taxes. And boy, they get slammed for that. Wait a minute. Where would we have been during the pandemic without Amazon and other delivery services? Where would we have been without FedEx, who for years and years didn't pay tax? Where would we be in the future without Tesla and SpaceX? You know, Elon Musk, I mean, these guys, these super entrepreneurs is what I call them. They get vilified a lot because they're so wealthy. And yet we're the ones who make them wealthy because they deliver an amazing service. They've solved huge problems, and we didn't solve the problem. They did. And so I think that them not paying tax is a good thing, because here's what happened by them not paying tax. Remember, taxes are a drag. They actually are a drag on your investing. They're a drag on your wealth. They're a drag on how fast you can move in your business. So the less taxes you pay, the less drag you have, and the faster you can move. Art Laffer, who is a great economist and was one of Reagan's top advisors, Ronald Reagan, he really came up with the idea that, look, the fewer taxes we have, the lower rates we have, the fewer taxes we have, the better everybody will do, not just those that are in high tax brackets, but also those in low tax brackets. Everybody will do better because there'll be less drag on the economy. There'll be more things done. Well, I'm pleased to report today that Art Laffer has endorsed the Win-Win Wealth Strategy, 7 investments the government will pay you to make. He personally endorsed this book. We have tons of endorsements, and I love the endorsements. I have to say, a little geeky about this, but I am so excited that Art Laffer, of all people, decided to endorse this book. This is really our opportunity to change the world. I would encourage you, don't buy a book for just yourself. Buy a book for all of your customers, your clients, everybody you meet, because here's the thing. What this book does is it basically explains that it's okay to pay fewer taxes if you're doing what the government wants done. It gives you permission to pay less taxes and make money in real estate, or pay less taxes and make money in business, or pay less taxes and make money in agriculture. This is the book you can hand out to people and say, see, you don't have to, don't look at me. You don't have to believe me. You can, look, Tom Wheelwright, the authority, did the research. Okay. Look at this, 15 different countries. And so this is the vision for this book. This book is, our goal is not just bestseller in the US, not just New York Times. Our goal is bestseller worldwide. And the reason is because we've really got to change the dialogue. We really have to move the needle on the dialogue. And I don't mean to be preachy at all. I'm just very excited about this. Definitely, if you have a friend, like Manny said, if you have a friend, family that would benefit from the Win-Win Wealth Strategy, share the live stream, share this so that they get an understanding of what's this book about. What are we talking about? Why would we spend hundreds of thousands of dollars promoting this book? Why would we spend so much time and effort getting the word out? Why would we do this? This is, I think, one of the most important topics of our time. There's this big attack on entrepreneurs and successful people, and I don't understand it, frankly. I have a hard time comprehending that success is now being vilified. What I want people to understand is that it's not that the government's losing when they provide these incentives. And it's not like the current administration in any country isn't providing the same incentives as the prior administration. They may change the incentive slightly. For example, prior administration in the US provide a lot of incentives for real estate. New administration wants to provide lots of incentives for renewable energy, but they're still using the tax law the same way to provide incentives to do what they want to have done. Here's what happened. Back in the 1960s, John F. Kennedy, President of the United States at the time, he, with his advisors, had this idea. We were going through a bit of a recession, particularly in the manufacturing sector. And he said, what if we give manufacturers a small tax incentive, say 10% credit for buying new equipment? Will they do it? Sure enough, they did. Sure enough, it actually increased investment, helped get us out of the recession. So then along came 1981. We're in the worst stagflation in my lifetime, worse than today. It's bad today, but it was worse then. We had high interest rates. We had so high inflation. We had and low economic activity. Ronald Reagan comes in. He says, "Let's stimulate real estate through the tax law." And in 1981, and I am old enough to remember this law. In 1981, Congress, under the guidance of President Reagan, enacted the first of 4 major tax bills enacted under Ronald Reagan. The first of 4. So Ronald Reagan in 8 years enacted 4 major tax bills. And you wonder why, how did Reagan pull us out of that, the doldrums of the late 1970s, early 1980s? Yes, Paul Volcker was part of it. The Fed was part of it, but they were not all of it. Some of it was this stimulation in the economy from the 1981, 82, 84, and 86 tax acts. And we've had 40 years of success since then. So again, this is something, not only is it good for you, and you're going to find amazing ways to reduce your taxes and build your wealth, it's good for the world. Okay. These things that we're talking about are good for the world. This is a way for you to do good and make money. I remember years ago, somebody commenting to me, well, so what are you doing charity wise? And I said, I do good in the world with my business. They go, yeah, but you make money on that. Well, why are those two mutually exclusive? Help me understand that. Thank you, Gary. There is plenty of recession left. We could be in trouble. And by the way, the best way to deal with recession is to reduce your taxes. Best way to deal with inflation is to reduce your taxes. But think about, and think about what you can do when you have less drag on your money and can build that wealth. What could you do with that money? See, I think entrepreneurs, I think they're the lifeblood of the world. I truly believe entrepreneurs are the lifeblood of the world. That's why our network of CPAs only serves entrepreneurs. We literally only serve entrepreneurs, limited to entrepreneurs. That's it. So I think entrepreneurs change the world every single day. I think little things, and I don't think it's wrong that they make money while they're doing it. What is wrong with making money? What is wrong with earning a living? What's wrong with creating a legacy? When did that become evil? I don't think very many people really believe it's evil. I think most people believe it's great. And with that, I'm very excited to have my good friend, Mike Dillard. If we can bring Mike in. Mike, welcome.
Hey, Tom. How you doing, my friend?
I am doing so great. Very exciting to launch Win-Win Wealth Strategy today. And I asked Mike specifically to be the first guest because many of you don't know, Tax-Free Wealth has been a #1 bestseller for over 10 years. The reason it became a bestseller was Mike Dillard. And I totally give you all that credit, Mike. You were, we have a lot of people promoting this book. We had you promoting that book, and you were amazing. And so what I want to do is I just wanted to, because Mike, you and I have been friends for a good 15 years. And if you would just kind of talk about, you talk a lot about building wealth and having a better life, and how taxes, because you keep bringing me on your podcast, you keep having me in, no matter what your business is, you've got me talking about taxes. And if you would you just share kind of a little bit of your story and why you think taxes are such an important part of the wealth building experience?
Yeah, I mean, simply put, it's the fastest and easiest way to make a return on your investment in the world, and with the least amount of risk, right? So to me, any money that I don't have to pay to the IRS is no different than, and I'm able to keep that money in my pocket. It's no different than money I would have made by making an investment, right? If I keep 100 grand in my pocket that I don't have to pay taxes on, what would I have needed to invest in order to make that $100,000 return in a single year? Probably $1 million, 700 grand to $1 million, 10 to 15% return. And there's always risk involved in that. And so if I can save that 100 grand, keep it in my pocket, and do it without any risk, and just do it with your help, best investment there is.
I love it. And the other thing I would add is and it's tax free. So if you make money, that's taxable, but if you reduce your taxes, that's cash that's not taxable. So you really get, you get all of the benefit instead of just part of benefit. So what are some of you've done a lot of things over the years, and a lot of things that you've done, reduce taxes, you've had ranches, you've had businesses. What are some of the things that you've found to be most beneficial? What kind of investments that have reduced your taxes while they built your wealth?
I take somewhat of a different approach. My favorite strategy is to turn my passion into a business, and therefore that allows me to write off everything that I do around that passion. So, for example, we are in my garage right now. We bought a ranch in last December. We're in the garage, which is being turned into a YouTube studio. So the white background behind me is going to be a painted mural, and then we've got all kinds of equipment up here on the ceiling that's coming in. And we are going to be starting a podcast show and a YouTube show, right? So all of this stuff is a write-off now, all of the modifications we're doing to the house and to the garage. And then we're going to be launching in about a month a community that's going to go along with the show. And that'll probably be $25 a month, from a membership perspective. And we're going to be documenting everything that we're doing on the ranch from a self-sustainability and a self-reliance perspective. And so our goal here is to take this property off grid. And that's just something, you saw the old property where I was doing that on my old ranch 12 years ago. So it's something that I really enjoy doing and that I'm passionate about and that I want to teach people about. But because we're going to launch that little business, we're putting in 1,000 square foot greenhouse, which is a easy 6-figure investment. We're putting the entire property on solar, which is almost a multiple 6-figure investment to do. We've got all kinds of, fuel tanks that we've bought or different modifications that we're making to the property. And because I can then show those off and just document what we're doing and basically sell that as education, we can write all of those things off when we normally wouldn't be able to. And so for me, it's a win-win-win. I get to do what I love. It brings in revenue, brings in cash, and it allows me to write off everything that we enjoy doing and that we're doing to the property. So
I love that. And in fact, so I've counted up how many of the 7 investments that you're taking advantage of in that one enterprise. Okay. So the first one's business. So the most tax incentives are in business. And literally every dollar, as you're finding out, every dollar you spend in your business is non-taxable, right? And you're going to make money on it, but when you spend it, that you earn the money, you spend it, you don't pay tax on it, right? You invest it in your business, you don't pay tax on it. Second of all, you have a ranch. So you have agriculture, and agriculture has, as you know, tremendous tax benefits.
We have an ag exemption, yep.
So, right. Well, you've got the property tax exemption, plus there are income tax deductions. You get to deduct buildings that you would otherwise not get to deduct because it's agriculture, right? On top of that, you say that you're going to be off the grid, which presumably means that you're going to have renewable energy sources on your property, right?
Well, we did, after our last conversation hanging out with you, we talked about what the government is offering as an incentive standpoint right now for solar. And this is, as far as I understand it, the last year when you can do that, I believe it's what, a 25 to 30%.
So we have a 26% credit and an 87% deduction if you do it for business.
And all of this infrastructure is just adding to the ultimate value of the home itself, right? So there's another way that it wins.
Well, and then it adds to the value of the home. And as we learn in chapter 4 of the Win-Win Wealth Strategy, you should never pay tax on real estate. And you can hold it, you can sell it, you can reinvest it. So real estate. So you're building an asset that the asset itself is never going to be taxed. And so to me, you've taken 3 of those tax strategies just because you want to turn your passion into a business. And this is what I was saying earlier, Mike, that one of the challenges I have with the discussion in the world right now is that somehow it's bad to make money. It's become bad to be successful. That there's so much, there's a lot of dialogue on that. And I'm going, wait a minute, look at all the good that Mike is doing. He's talking about sustainability. He's talking about renewable energy. He's talking, agriculture. All of these things are things that the government is promoting on a daily basis. And here you are actually showing it, turning it into a business, taking that passion to the world. Mike is, for those of you who don't know Mike, all of you, when he launches, you should all be enrolled. Everybody should be enrolled in Mike Dillard's projects. Mike is absolutely the best at what he does. The very, very best, no matter what it is. So whatever passion it is, Mike, I know you're always all in. And that's really what the government's looking for, right? I mean, if you invested casually in somebody else's business, you would not get nearly the tax benefits that you get, or the revenue that you get doing your own business. So this is why I say, let's say it again, that I think entrepreneurs are the lifeblood of the world. And what you're doing, I think it's great. You're making money on it because then you'll do more of it.
Yeah, no, it's a blast. We're getting paid to do what we love, and it saves us on taxes. So I can't think of a better way to make a living. So
that is awesome. Thank you, Mike. Thanks again. Once again, just big thanks for all your help with both these books, promoting tax-free wealth into basically the publishing stratosphere. Thank you for that. And promoting this book, The Win-Win Wealth Strategy. You're amazing, and appreciate what you're doing, and I love your passion, and I love your new project. So can't wait to see it. Can't wait to see the new ranch and come down there to Texas and see what's going on.
Yeah. Have you on the show would be awesome. All right, my friend. Well, thank you so much. Love you, Tom.
All right.
Appreciate you, my friend.
Thank you. Love you, Mike. Bye. All right. That is Mike Dillard, my friend, and just an amazing human being. And really, what a cool project he's doing. And again, this is a project that is really covered in the 7 investments. He uses 3 of those investments. So think about that. And we were talking about real estate as one of those. And sure enough, we have a real estate expert coming in right now. We have Brad Sumrock, my good friend, who actually is featured in chapter 9 of the Win-Win Wealth Strategy. Welcome to our launch party, Brad.
Hey, Tom, this is exciting.
I am very excited. And, I'm very excited for people to read this chapter. When I was writing the book, I'm going, you know what? I think we could actually show how the government would pay for a Ferrari. And I'm going, I know Brad wants a Ferrari. So, Brad, we looked at the numbers, and you're showing me these numbers. You just said, here's where the money's going to come from to invest. I go through all the numbers, of course, because I'm an accountant, so I love doing the numbers. And sure enough, I mean, the actual numbers, you've got this beautiful black Ferrari, right? And the numbers show how the government basically paid for your Ferrari. And how cool is that?
Yeah, that's very cool. So, Tom, one of the things you taught me is don't ask if something is deductible. You should ask, how can you make it deductible? And so by following your strategies and working with you, you're absolutely right. I invest in apartments, and I was able to take income from an apartment building and buy a Ferrari with that income, and it's totally tax-free.
Exactly. And the down payment, so in the chapter 9, we actually show that the Ferrari, the down payment on the Ferrari actually came from tax savings. So I love that down payment came from tax savings. Then sure enough, it's getting paid for every month. So if you would, Brad, not everybody knows your story. I think most people know who you are, but not everybody knows your story about how you went from $900,000+ in taxes to zero. Would you mind sharing a little bit about that? Because I never get tired of that, because I get to be the hero of the story, and that's not very often.
Yeah. So, so real quick, engineer MBA, read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and learned about ESBI. So I sought out real estate education. And then my first building, I bought 32 units 20 years ago. Can you believe it was 2 decades ago? And then bought another 30 units. And then shortly I was out of money. So then I learned how to syndicate. So Tom, my main focus from like 2005 to 2016 was on syndicating deals, buying bigger deals, raising more money. And I was so focused on that I kept, paying more and more in tax. And I had a CPA, of course, that did all my tax returns. And I just had this belief that the more I earned, the more taxes I should pay. And then, as you know, I started, along with my wife, Jen, an education platform where we do mentoring and masterminds and apartment education, where we teach people to do what we do. And all that income was earned income. So we're doing bigger deals and getting more money from those deals. And then we're doing mentoring and masterminds, and that's all earned income. And so over the, 15 years of buying deals and doing real estate education, our income started going up and our taxes started going up. So then I'll never forget, I think it was 2017, and I was speaking at an event. And I said, there's 4 types of millionaires. The first one is when your net worth hits $1 million. And I'm like, okay, I did that one. The second one is when you do like $1 million liquid. And I'm like, okay, I have that. The third is you make $1 million a year. And I'm like, okay, I'm doing that. And the fourth, according to my old beliefs, was you pay $1 million in tax. And I remember saying that from the stage. And I was at 965,000. And I feel so stupid now, right? But I was so proud, because I almost became that 4th type of millionaire. And I remember you pulled me aside and you said, hey, if you're open to another way of thinking. Well, first of all, you said, I don't ever want you to say that again. And I don't know if you remember, but you were like, I don't ever want you to say that
I'm
again.
like, are you out of your mind? Are you kidding me?
And then you were like, if you're open to it, like, what if I showed you how you could buy more deals and increase your earned income and still not pay any tax, or dramatically reduce your tax? And that was like tax year 2017 or 18. I get confused between the calendar year and the tax year because it's, 1 year off or whatever. But I could just say that 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, and now 2022 will be zero tax for now 5 years in a row. And as you know, Tom, because your firm does our tax returns, I mean, our income is growing. Our income from our businesses is approaching $10 million net, and we're paying zero tax legally because of the help that you provided to us.
Yeah. So this is chapter 4. So for all of you, when you're reading Win-Win Wealth Strategy, chapter 4 is real estate. And chapter 4 is the tax benefits of real estate. Now, Brad, one of the things I talk about in chapter 4 is that real estate, it's not just investing in real estate, but you have to use debt. Can you talk about, so how much debt? I mean, if you look at all, I don't know how many doors you have now, but if you can kind of explain how many doors you have, how much debt do you have?
Yeah, so me and my wife have about 8,700 doors. We're primarily in a GP role, general partner role, which in other words means we're managers of the managing entity that owns the building. So we're involved in key decisions. We're typically loan guarantors. And so, Tom, here's an example. Like, we just closed a $51 million deal. And on that $51 million deal, we have a loan of $40 million. So that one deal, the purchase price is $51 million. And let's say the improved value, because you don't depreciate the land, that improved value might be 45 million out of 51 million, because it's not in a class A urban, neighborhood. It's more of a suburban area where the land is not that expensive. I mean, it's still a B class asset in Nashville, but maybe like 85% of that 51 million is going to be the improved value. So on $51 million, we'll probably depreciate. Well, the improved value will be about $43 million. Okay, so that's a big. We get to depreciate that $43 million, and our equity is only maybe $12 million. So we're buying a $50 million asset with $12 million of equity, $40 million of debt, and the depreciable amount is the price minus the land. And so that's how we can get these amazing tax advantages, by using debt. And, right now, I mean, debts are coming down a little bit because the interest rates are going up, but we could still get like 70% debt, 30% equity right now.
Well, yeah. And when you consider that this is one of the few times that we've ever had inflation higher than the interest rate, then, I mean, your rents are going up faster, higher than your interest rate, and your interest rate staying flat.
Well, that's why, debt is almost like another asset that, we buy this $50 million building with $40 million of debt, and we're paying today's debt back in tomorrow's dollars that is going down at 10% a year because inflation is eroding the dollar, but yet rents are going up 20% a year. So the income keeps going up, and the debt that we're paying back is being paid in tomorrow's dollars and not today's. And so it's a beautiful, beautiful investment. And I've been through the 2008 downturn as well and did really well with my buildings. Same thing, but this is not 2008. But, nonetheless, we're in an inflationary environment. Even though the rates are going up, the inflation is a lot higher than the debt is going up.
So let me ask you, Brad, a lot of people they hear $40 million in debt and they like faint, right? I mean, they're like, I can't breathe. What makes you comfortable taking on $40 million of debt?
Well, look, I've been doing this for 20 years. So if I were talking to somebody new, I would say, look, and Tom, I have an educational program, but what makes me comfortable is the 20 years experience. The people that are 1 or 2 levels above me, no matter where you're at, there's always people above you that you need to be learning from. So I learn from people that have 15 to 20,000 doors, and I have 8,000, and I watch what they do, and I'm constantly a student, and I'm constantly investing in myself, and I'm constantly expanding my team. And so people that are getting started, maybe you're doing a $5 million deal with $4 million of debt. And so it's just, adding or subtracting a zero. But like no matter where you're at and you're listening out there, and I know this is a fact because I've helped so many people do it, like anybody out there could do a $5 to $10 million deal if they're following the right framework and they have the right team. Anybody could do it. And I know that because I help people do it all the time with no experience. So maybe 40 million I wouldn't advise a newbie to go and do a $40 million deal, but I would tell them that a $5 to $10 million deal is certainly within reach if you invest in yourself.
So would it be fair to say that you're really comfortable that your tenants are going to pay that debt, that you're not going to have to come out of pocket?
Yeah, absolutely. Like even during the pandemic, when people were afraid of rent strikes and stuff, like 98% of tenants paid their rent. You know, the government sent them the money and 98% of them prioritized their rent payment. So, you know, when we're buying apartment buildings, we're qualifying residents based on, you know, income, credit, criminal, you know, employment history. So there's 5 things we look for when we're renting these units. So like, I've been doing it for 20 years. I'm very comfortable when you hire a professional management company and you follow a proven framework of what to buy, where to buy, how to finance, and how to manage, that the vast majority, like 98 to 99% of the tenants pay their rent on time.
Yeah. This is why I would say, if you're afraid of debt, it's probably because you don't trust the asset. But the way you learn to trust the asset, like you say, is you get education, you get mentors, and you practice. I mean, you didn't start with a $50 million deal, right? You started with 32 units, which actually most people don't even start that big, right? Most people start with a 4 unit or a 2 unit or a 1 unit. And, my point is that it doesn't matter where you are. The tax benefits are the same in a small deal as they are in a big deal. They're just proportionally different. It's like you say, you just add a 0, right? Or you take off a 0, but the tax benefits are still there as long as you understand how the tax law works.
Correct. So yes, I mean, and I would say, like, I started with 32, and I'm just going to tell you, the only reason I started with 32 is that's what, you know, when I started, I put my money where my mouth is. Like, I had a mentor when I started. I invested in my education, and my mentor said, buy as many doors as you can under one roof. You know, now I would say go syndicate an 80 to 100 unit deal, because it's easier to do that than it is to buy a small property with your own money. But neither here nor there, it's just adding and taking away zeros. So whether you buy a 4 unit, you know, a 40 unit, or 140 unit, the tax advantages are proportionally the same, except you just have, I mean, Tom, does it make sense to do a cost segregation analysis on 4 units?
Yeah, it does. It absolutely does. Oh my heavens. I've seen them done on a $100,000 house. I've seen them done on a $70,000 house, and it made sense. This is what, you know, in Tax-Free Wealth, I talk about chapter 7, the magic of depreciation. I go into it a little bit more in the Win-Win Wealth strategy. The depreciation is just one of those benefits. And all the government's saying is, look, we need housing. Are we still short housing units, Brad?
We are. I mean, there's a huge gap. One of the reasons I'm so bullish on apartments, and it's a big difference between now and 08 for people that are afraid of like a recession. 08, we had a surplus of single family and multi-family housing. We had more housing than we had households being formed. Now we have the opposite. We have a lot more households being formed than we have housing units, and it's getting worse, because as we came out of the pandemic, more people are, you know, getting back out of the house. More households are being created as people are going back to work, and there's still supply chain and labor issues. I mean, we're almost at full employment, and you know, it's still hard to build units and put on new units online. So like, there's really going to be a shortage of housing units for like the next, and I don't have a crystal ball. Well, I kind of do, actually. You see that? That's my salt lamp sitting there as my crystal ball. But if I did have a crystal ball, we're looking at like 5 more years of housing shortage.
Yeah. And so, you know, this is why the government does this. This is why the government provides these incentives. Now, this is the last year we have 100% bonus depreciation. Next year it goes to 80%. then it goes to 60%, then it goes to 50%. But even before 2017, when we had no bonus depreciation on real estate, the tax benefits were phenomenal. So all the government's saying is, look, we need housing units. We'll pay you to build those housing units or to refurbish the housing units. I know you typically don't build new, Brad. You take older units, but you bring them up to current standards. And that by itself, what a service. Again, I mean, you look at what Mike Dillard, our previous guest, was talking about, well, the service he's doing in talking about sustainability and having a sustainable lifestyle. And here you are, you're improving housing units, you're improving housing for other people. And I just think it's great. And I do know, by the way, Brad and I do a lot of work together. Not only is he a client, does he support me, but I always support him at his events. He's got an event coming up. So, Win-Win Wealth Strategy tells you, gives you 7 investments that you could get into to build wealth tax effectively, real estate being one of them. I'm not a real estate trainer, Brad is. So I partner with Brad on his events. And if you want to go ahead and put Brad's, he's got an event coming up September 30th through October 2nd. I'll be there. I'll be speaking. And if you go ahead and post that link. And just like I told you for Mike Dillard, everybody should be subscribed to anything Mike Dillard does. I mean, Mike Dillard's brilliant. If you're at all interested in real estate, particularly multifamily, I will tell you, Brad's the only person I send people to learn about how to do multifamily real estate. And the reason is because, I love the whole engineering approach that you take, Brad. I love that you've got the engineering background because it's much more specific. There's a lot of real estate instructors that say, go do this, or, if you want, invest with me, right? There's a whole lot of those, but there are very few that actually walk you through, okay, what I want you to do is I actually want you to become your own real estate investor. I want you to do your own deals, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So here you've got, you check out Brad's event. You can access the website here. You can go in, and thank you very much, Brad, for coming on. Thank you for doing that. So I am next. We have somebody in a different real estate expertise. And the next person we have coming on is my good friend, Ben Kinney. And Ben is amazing in his own right. Ben runs one of the largest real estate agencies in the world. I get that right, Ben? It's true, isn't it? I've been told you do. I'm not by you, by the way, because I don't think you would ever admit to that. But I have actually been told by others who would know that Ben Kinney is a superstar when it comes to real estate. Ben, I met Ben. First, he invited me to speak at his conference. Ben does a lot of training, and he does a lot of, I find, very generous charity type work. And, the proceeds from his events, a lot of them go to charity, which I'm all in. All of our clients, by the way, in my CPA firm, all of our clients have a cause. They all have a purpose, and it's not just their business. And I'm a big believer because, as I said, entrepreneurs are the lifeblood of the world. So, Ben, welcome to our launch of the Win-Win Wealth Strategy.
Man, thank you for the invite. Super excited to be here. I remember pre Tom Wheelwright, one of my mentors gave me an exercise to figure out what my number one expense in my life was. And I went through the exercise probably a little bit like Brad did. And I figured out that my number one expense was taxes. It was the number one thing I spent money on my life. And I'm like, I need to figure this out. Like, nobody reads about taxes. We send it off to somebody and we hope it's right. And which led me to your book, Tom. And I read the book and I thought, gosh, this is going to be life-changing. So had you come out to the event, and then I suckered you into coaching me personally. And it's been pretty life-changing. So I'm excited to be here. I got a copy of your book here. I've read it. Right behind me, I got a copy of your other book, Tax-Free Wealth. And I was looking at your your strategies when I read the book, The 7 Primary Investments, and I do at least 5 of them: business, the technology, R&D, real estate, obviously, insurance, retirement. I don't do energy or agriculture yet, conservation easements yet, but you never know. We have time, Tom.
Well, exactly. And I don't know, we might, in our next discussion, we might have to talk about the energy part, because energy, we have 2 years left of solar energy credits and solar energy tax benefits. And solar energy works so well with real estate, investment real estate, that I think it's a shame not to combine the two. Ben, as you mentioned, he does a lot of technology. So this is one we haven't talked about yet, Ben. If you would talk a little bit, because technology has completely changed your business, and really your business, as I understand your business, really a lot of the success comes from the technology that you've developed over the years. Can you talk a little bit about what you did, why you decided to develop that technology? Why did you take, this is one of those 7 investments. Why did you take that approach to your business instead of doing it like everybody else did it?
Sure. I have a journey like a lot of people. I'm a 18-year overnight success, 17 of which were hard, I think. Been in the real estate industry, started buying brokerages in the downturn, and I looked up and realized that the number one thing that could put my industry in jeopardy was technology. And that either you can be replaced by technology or you can be a part of technology. So I just decided over 10 years ago to be a part of it and to make technology a part of our business offerings. So we started investing pretty heavily into building tech for real estate agents and for the real estate consumer, and been doing it for 10 plus years.
Yeah. So now you've really got the top technology, as I understand it, the top technology in the residential real estate market.
Yeah, we built an end-to-end technology platform for real estate agents called Brivity, which led us to our next major company called Place. And we're a Goldman Sachs backed business services plus technology platform for real estate professionals.
So let's talk about how taxes have changed over the last few years, Ben, and what you look at from it. How you look at taxes differently now that you understand how taxes really work and why they work that way. How do you look at taxes differently than you used to?
Yeah, I think, Tom, you taught me that the tax code is 99% incentives and 1% penalties. Basically, 1% is how you pay taxes, and the rest of the tax code is how not to pay taxes. And you also taught me that not paying a lot of taxes isn't a bad thing. I think I've been brainwashed, but partially by my dad, probably, about people that don't pay a lot of taxes are bad. But that's only if you do it fraudulently. Really, what it means is that you have taken the government's suggestion to invest your capital, your money, into things that benefit the world, like your retirement, so you don't have to rely on government assistance, like building technology with the R&D credits, like owning real estate and investing and improving real estate, like the 1031 and cost segregation and opportunity zones. Like there's so many different things that we've learned on this journey that has allowed me to keep 30% more of my wealth every year that I could reinvest, that compounds. And now it feels like wealth and financial freedom is a foregone conclusion, because we've put strategies in place that allow us to have all this additional income compounding year after year.
Yeah, you make a good point that when you're not paying the tax, you can use that money, you can reinvest it. So you invested a ton of money back into your business, a ton of money into the technology side of things and the business side of things. And one of the great things about taxes is any money you invest, you don't pay tax on. It's only money that you spend or you save that you pay tax on. So you're not saving any money anymore. One of the things that I remember we talked about first, and this is something that I kind of chuckle at, Brad Sumrock, our previous guest, has really had the same issue, is that you guys are, as real estate agents, you're inside investors. You get the first look at properties.
Yeah.
And so it always like, I'm going, so why aren't you buying properties? Right. So many real estate agents don't buy properties. They don't invest in properties. I'm going, look, if you were in the stock market and you had the inside information that you guys have, you'd go to prison for using
Right.
it.
Yeah.
You guys get rewarded for using it. So talk about that, because you've started also, I noticed over the last few years, you've also started not just putting money in your business, but putting money back into real estate.
Yeah. A few things come to mind when you say that. Like if I owned a Toyota dealership and I wanted more inventory for my Toyota dealership, I don't think I would go to my competing Toyota dealership across town and buy Toyotas. I'd buy them from the factory, because there has to be a margin made on the purchase
Right.
of selling my new Toyota Tundra truck to whoever wants to buy it. But people who say they're real estate investors, the vast majority of them rely on things to pop on the market. They're buying Toyotas from the other Toyota dealership in town instead of putting effort out to go out there and find opportunities where it's a win-win for the seller and the buyer to get into real estate at the right price. And I think that's a message that every real estate agent and every consumer should know as well. I talked to a guy the other day and he said, yeah, I just bought this fourplex off market. And I said, how'd you find it? He said, I just started riding my bike on Saturdays. And every time I saw somebody out in the lawn, I'd have my backpack on, I'd be on my bike and I look kind of nerdy. And I would say, hey, how are you? And they would want to talk to me because I didn't look like a salesperson because I was on my bike. And I'd say, oh, I'm just trying to find a place for me and my family to live in this neighborhood. I was wondering if you knew anybody that had thought about selling around here. He found 8 separate people in one Saturday that wanted to sell his house simply riding a bike around. Right. I check my mailbox every single day for an opportunity to show up. And I've been doing it for 20 years, Tom, and there's never anything in the mailbox. It turns out I have to go knock doors and shake trees to find opportunities that are not getting mailed to me at the moment.
Right. But you make a good point, is that you have to be looking for it, right? It won't just show up. People go, well, the hardest thing about investing is deal flow, right? How do I find the deal flow? You have to look for it, right? If you're not looking for it, you're not going to find it. I mean, if he's not riding his bike, asking people, it doesn't just show up for him. He asks those people, and guess what? It's there, but it's invisible. It's invisible until we start looking for it. And I think that's one of the reasons that the government incentivizes these things. They're saying, look, if you'll put your investment and wealth hat on and say, look, I'm going to look for this. I'm going to do something. Yeah. Okay. This is one of those investments the government wants. Okay. I'm going to do this. I'm going to actually take the time, take the effort, use my capital. I'm going to learn about it and I'm going to go do it. I'm going to do it right. The government says, look, we'll give you a tax benefit because here's what we know is that not only will you do something that we want you to do, but we're actually going to make money on it because we're your partners in this deal. And when you start making money, we're going to make money. So to me, it just makes total sense. And so when your dad says, I think your dad is typical, that people who don't pay tax are bad.
Yeah.
Right. People who don't pay tax are bad because most people think that taxes are a zero-sum game, right? If the government wins, I lose. If I win, I have to be cheating and the government loses. But what I think you found out, what Brad found out, what Mike found out is that, and that we talk about throughout win-win wealth strategy, is that it's okay that the government can win and we can win. It doesn't have to be a zero-sum game. It can be, but it doesn't have to be a zero-sum game. And one of the things I was telling people earlier, Ben, is that one of the things that I found with this book is I found a lot of people are giving it away. And the reason they're giving away is because they're saying, look, you have permission to do what the government wants done. You have permission to make money and pay less tax. Here's the permission like you said, here's the permission in the book right here. Guess what? The government wants you to do this. So it's okay. And I think to me, that's why I'm so passionate about this book, Ben, is that I'm tired of people saying the rich need to pay more tax or, the rich are cheaters. We have an IRS commissioner who says we could raise $1 trillion from rich people because they cheat. I'm going, he knows better. frankly, he knows better. He should frankly be ashamed, because he was a tax professional before he became the IRS commissioner. And what he knows truly is that these are government incentives. These are things the government wants us to do. And now now we have a book, pretty simple, that just says, look, it's okay. You don't have to be ashamed.
I see so many people. I'm passionate about wealth building, and I'm passionate about real estate investing and building businesses. And I just want people to be free. I want them to have the freedom to do what they want, when they want, with who they want. And so many people say, well, as soon as I can afford to do it, I'm going to donate money to charity, or as soon as I can afford to do it, I'm going to invest in real estate, or I'm going to start my own business. Well, listen, if you're making $100,000 a year and you aren't taking the advice in this book, what you're doing is you're giving 30 grand of it away to the IRS. Now that 30 grand, don't you think you could have bought real estate, gave more money to your church or your cause, started a business, or done something else with? And if you did that in a year or two, don't you think you'd have more money to do good, to buy more real estate, to create more jobs? That's why studying taxes is such an important piece of being wealthy, because your job as a somebody that wants to do good in the community is to protect your wealth so that you can give your wealth.
Yeah, I've never heard anybody say that they thought the government could do better with their money than they could.
Right. Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's really, so the government is really efficient and effective the way they use our money. Nobody believes that. Not even one person. Maybe Bernie Sanders believes it, but he would maybe be the only person on earth. Okay. Maybe. But the reality is that I think a lot of us would, like Brad Sumrock, previous guest, I've heard him say from stage before that now that he doesn't pay taxes, because he's paid zero tax for the last few years, he can give so much more money to charity. He has a very big charity that he's very passionate about, wheelchairs in Central and South America, for people who can't afford wheelchairs. And I can't even imagine anything worse. And, it's bad enough to need a wheelchair, but then to not even have a wheelchair available. So, here's a guy who's saying, well, I'd rather take $1 million and give it to a charity than take $1 million and give it to the government.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly, Tom. It hurts my heart to think about that. I'm so glad Brad is doing good out there in the world. Like so many of us would, if we had extra money, we would do good with it. So we got to make wealth building and taxes an important thing that we study and we read about and we learn. I remember when COVID happened, and COVID was scary enough for everybody in the first month or two. And our state, Washington State, was one of the first states to get shut down. And it was a little scary. It reminded me of 2008, the feeling I had. And that first week of our state being shut down, I get this notice from the IRS that I'm getting a full audit of a 2 years business and personal. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what did I do? And I call you up, Tom, and I'm like, Tom, I got a problem. And so I have Tom look into this. And one of the things that was flagged on my tax return was that I gave away too much money in proportion to my income. I didn't know that was a bad thing, but it caused part of our audit. Well, Tom goes and I get a full 2 year business and personal audit, and Tom represents me. And at the end, he calls me and says, hey, unfortunately, in 1 year, they found that you underpaid by $800. I'm like, ouch. And he said, but in the other year, they found that you overpaid by $1,700. So they're sending you a check for $800. I'm like, sweet. Because the strategies that we learned and we implemented with your coaching, they weren't illegal. They were accurate. They followed the tax code, and they did a lot of good, which allowed me to give away more money than maybe the IRS thinks I should have that year.
I do find that, I will say, I always say, Congress is your friend and the IRS is your enemy. Don't ever think the IRS is your friend. They're not. Yeah. But thank you, Ben. I just want to thank you so much. I know we're doing a webinar later this week, to your group. You're such a big proponent of education, and such big proponent of just always learning something new. So any final words?
No, I think that anybody listening now, you're going to hear all these different things today, and you're going to read all these different things that are in this book. And you may not walk away an expert, but it might create this little flag in your mind to get you to ask that one extra question or do one additional thing next year. And when you helped me with my taxes, it wasn't an immediate, I went back the last 4 years and got money back. It was, how do you create a strategy so going forward, I use my capital in a better way? And that's why I hope so many of you take the time to read this book and not just read it. We don't want a smart bookshelf, but implement the strategies, the 7 strategies over time. Start with the one that's easiest for you, I guess.
Absolutely. Thank you. No, it's, you know, Ben and I share something. We're very practical people, right? There's not a lot of fluff with Ben, and there's no fluff in this book. And it's very much practical advice. So like Ben said, please take advantage of it, use it, make it part of your life, because that's how you build wealth and you do more good in the world. So thank you, Ben Kinney, and we'll let you go. Thanks so much for joining us today.
My honor.
Thanks. Ben Kinney, one of the great people in my life, a lot of great people in my life. I love Chicken Charlie saying the chapter on whole life is outstanding. I currently own a few whole life policies. That is one of the 7 investments is insurance. Not one that you think about very often. You know, I was doing an interview this morning on Sirius XM radio, and the interviewer asked me, is there anything in here that is, you know, we don't typically think about? And in insurance, I think insurance and renewable energy, those are probably two of them that nobody talks about. Nobody talks about. And he was actually surprised by fossil fuels. Oil and gas, by the way, is highly incentivized. And we talk about it in the book. It's not just renewable energy. It's actually traditional energy. Thanks, Jade. Jade just made a private comment. Jade's our tech support, and you've kind of doing okay when the tech support is excited about what you're talking about. So I love that. When I'm on stage, I always talk to the audiovisual people, the people behind the scenes, because they're the ones who make it happen, like Jade, who's making this happen. And I'm so grateful for them. But what I get really excited about is when they start learning, and when they actually start and they go, this is good stuff, because they hear, you know, you handle webinars, you do things, you're hearing the stuff you're hearing all sorts of stuff. You're going, how often do you get something that connects? So I just want to thank everybody. I'm going to wrap up in a few minutes here. Thanks for staying on. By the way, some of you guys have been on for, you know, almost an hour and a half here. And I'm so impressed that you stick with us and learn so much. I'm going, seriously, who sticks on a show about taxes for an hour and a half? Really? I mean, seriously. I mean, I would, because I can talk about this for days and days and days, right? This is all I talk about all day, every day. But I am particularly passionate about it. I just feel like, I feel like, you know, there are some areas, like Mike said, he said, take your passion and turn it into a business. Okay. That's basically what I've done. My passion is my passion is money. I'm actually, my next book actually talks about that. But I'm passionate about money. And it's not that, you know, it's not that I want to be a billionaire. I don't. At one time I thought maybe I would. What I find interesting about money is just how it works and how it's used and what it is. I learned several years ago when I was studying tax law, actually, that money is debt and debt is money. You look at 2008, why didn't we not have big inflation when they put a huge stimulus into the economy? We should have had inflation like we do now, right? But the reason is because there'd been so much money taken out because of foreclosures. So you start thinking about it, you go, wait a minute, debt is money, money is debt. When you start thinking differently about money, all of a sudden the world changes. I think when we start thinking differently about anything, I think our world changes. And so my little passion, my little part of the world is a third of your money, taxes. It's a third. Okay, let's face it, it's a third. For many people, if you look at it and you include property tax, sales tax, other taxes, it's more than half, and it's well more than half. If you're in California, it's probably 75%. Okay, so this is the way I'm just going. I'm going to be passionate about it, right? Nobody's ever accused me of not having enough energy. I was talking to Amber and Haley, who have been helping us so much with this book promotion, and they're just amazing. And Amber was saying yesterday, she goes, you need to take care of yourself, make sure you have enough energy. I'm going, are you accusing me of not having any energy? And I have energy for this because I believe in it. I've seen it. So I have the advantage, right? I have 40 years of experience. I spent 7 years at Ernst & Young and worked primarily with entrepreneurs at Ernst & Young. They don't work with entrepreneurs much anymore, but I did back in the 80s. Then I worked for a Fortune 1000 company. Didn't work with entrepreneurs at all. But I did work with ratepayers because our biggest company was a public utility, and ratepayers, that's the average person. And then I started my own company, and I'm just going, you know what? This is something that I can do. So like Mike said, as somebody was saying earlier, it's so expensive to start a business. I'm going, it's not though. Actually, in chapter 2, which we talk about business in chapter 2, I actually go through an example of where literally the government will pay you to start a business. Literally, the government will pay you. In other words, the tax benefits are greater than the cost of starting the business. It has never been so easy in the world's history to start a business. Literally, you can start a business right here with your phone. You can start a business. You can start an online business. You can work from your home. Think about this. Last 2.5 years, people have been working from home almost exclusively. Guess what? If you're an employee, you didn't get to deduct your home office, but if you had a business, you did. Isn't that interesting? That's just the government saying we're incentivizing business. Interestingly enough, didn't used to always be that way. Prior to 1944, employees weren't taxed at all in the U.S. From 1944 until 1954, employees were almost not taxed. It was only a small amount of tax. It wasn't until the 1960s and 1970s that employees really started to be taxed. And what happened was when Nixon took us off the gold standard, okay, now money was debt. Okay, now we needed taxes. And so what happened was during the Vietnam War, and then subsequent to the Vietnam War, we kept getting bigger and bigger tax increases for employees, more and more tax incentives. So what we did was we had this complete shift where employees were paying no tax and only entrepreneurs, successful, wealthy people were making tax. And then now it's the opposite, right? The successful, wealthy people are paying no tax, and the people who make a lot of money as employees are paying a lot of tax. So, I want to respond to a couple of questions. So Gary keeps asking real estate questions. I would encourage you, particularly talk to Brad Sumrock about that. He goes, how do you find it good with housing prices increasing? Well, here's the thing about this. Interest rates are still lower than inflation. That is unique in the world. I mean, we rarely have that situation. Normally, inflation is less than interest rates. So that means that rents are going up faster and housing prices are going up faster than the cost, right? Because the cost is really, you're not using your money, you're using the bank's money. So that would be one thing that I would like to consider. I want to thank Giselle for, you just purchased your copy. If you don't have a copy of the book yet, please go to Amazon. If you could put the link up, please, Jade, on Amazon so that everybody can just go right there. I think Manny had it up earlier, but if you can go ahead and put it back up so that it's kind of in front and center for everybody, because I think that it just needs to be obvious. This is a book I would not just buy this for yourself. And please, when you read it, and thank you so many of you for buying it and reading it. Thank you, Andrew. Purchased 2 copies today. Good job. When you do, please do a review on Amazon. Amazon reviews are very important to spreading the word. So understand that this book is not about me making money. Okay. It's not. It's about how do we help more people learn how to build wealth and pay less tax? How do we help more people understand that you could be an active partner with the government. You can do things the government wants done. You can do great good in society. In chapter 4, when I talk about real estate, I talk about the low-income housing tax credit. There have been studies done, and it's pretty clear that the low-income housing tax credit is the primary driver of low-income housing. Do you know low-income housing tax credit can be as much as 70% of the purchase price over 10 years? 70%. So here we go. Here's the here's the QR code. Here's the Amazon. There you go. Thank you, Manny. There's the Amazon for Win-Win Wealth Strategy. There's the Amazon link. Go to Amazon. By the way, it is also on Audible, and I understand it's read extraordinarily well. Wiley has been a magnificent publisher for us. We used Wiley just really because we wanted to get the word to a much broader audience. We've got a big audience for tax-free wealth. We sold over 300,000 copies. We'd like to sell, 30 million copies of the Win-Win Wealth Strategy. We don't rest on our laurels and have a successful book. We want a life-changing book for millions and millions of people around the world. So that's why we spent the time to look at 15 different countries, and just really love you guys. I love what you're doing. Because I think pretty much everybody on here is an entrepreneur of some sort. You can be an entrepreneur in your job. You don't have to be an entrepreneur in your own business. But remember that employees pay the most tax. So remnants, media, got your copy today. Thank you very much. Again, make sure you post if you got it at Amazon, which hopefully you did, or Barnes & Noble. You can also post on Barnes & Noble. Then go ahead and give that review. That would be awesome, because that pushes it up, and more people. Social proof is so important for people to buy a book. I know for myself, I'm a big reader. I love fiction. I'm a big fiction reader. I read nonfiction too, but I read a lot of fiction. I go to the New York Times bestseller list. That's where I go for my books. I mean, I'm lazy. So the more we can do to get this moved up, we are number 1 in 3 categories in Amazon right now. So thank you all for that. A lot of you have bought lots of books, and just a big thank you for that. I want to acknowledge Brad Sumrock. Brad Sumrock actually bought 500 copies of the book. Of course, he is featured in the book, so 500 copies may be a little low, but I'm just so grateful for everybody who's helped, everybody who shares. This is a work of love. This is a work of changing how we think about money, changing how we think about tax, changing how we think about, what does the government want done? I loved what Ben Kinney said. I loved him talking about how, as you build wealth now, because we have to be safe first, right? I mean, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we have to feel safety first before we can go and be generous. We have to feel safety. Okay. So let's build our wealth. Let's get safe. Okay. Then let's go serve others. Okay. And then we're free to serve. Now we don't have time. We have more time. We have more money. We can do more, and we can do more for the world. Thank you again. It's been absolutely a treat to have you all here. It's thank you Chicken Charlie, kids in high school should read this in order to graduate. Well, I don't think the education union is going to require, I don't think they're going to require this as reading. I do agree though. Children should read this book. High schoolers, this is an easy book. This is a really easy book. It'd be a great one for you to go through with your kids. I'm going to put a little shout out also. While you're doing education for your kids, check out the board game Cash Flow. This is the Rich Dad board game. I think playing a board game is one of the best ways to learn. And there's a great YouTube video. It's a really short one. I don't know if it was YouTube, Instagram, where it was, but it's this little boy, and he's playing Monopoly, I think, and he's crying, and his mother says, "Why are you crying?" He goes, "Taxes." And she goes, "What's wrong?" He goes, "I hate taxes. They take all my money." And, oh, just by the way, Brad, and so you know what? Kids get it. They're going to get it. Okay. But I do recommend highly recommend the board game, Cash Flow. Recommend all the Rich Dad. You want some great education. All the Rich Dad books are fantastic. And then, of course, our books, Win-Win Wealth Strategy and Tax-Free Wealth. By the way, Brad says AOC should read this book. I will tell you, Brad, I did send a copy to her. Whether she will read it is another question, but I did send her a copy. And there you go, Ryan. Kids get it. AOC may not. Who knows? I don't know. You know what? I would love her to read it because I'd at least like her to understand why what she's saying doesn't make sense. Okay. And she can still say it. You know, Bernie Sanders understands it, and he still thinks rich should pay more tax. That's fine. Okay. AOC, does she understand? Probably not. But I'm pretty confident Bernie Sanders does, and I respect him for that. He understands it, and he has his position, and I respect that. There's no political comments here. None. Okay. This is just explaining the way the game works, and that you can win, the government can win. And, final words are just know that anything we can do to help, go to wealthability.com. Wealthability.com. We have tons of resources there. We have a network of 60 CPA firms around the country. If you need CPA help, if you need your CPA to get help, go to wealthability.com, send your CPA to wealthability.com, and we'll train them on how to do all this. And in the meantime, get educated. Find the strategy that works for you. Don't do all of them. Find the strategy that works for you. Get really good at what you do. Like Ben Kinney, really good at what he does. Mike Dillard, really good at what he does. Passionate about it. Brad Sumrock, really good at what he does. Get really good at it. Get really good at it. Let's change our thought process. Let's celebrate entrepreneurs who are the lifeblood of the world. And remember that the more money you make, the more taxes you pay, but the more assets you build and the more wealth you build, the less tax you pay. So it is the win-win wealth strategy, not the win-win income strategy. Liz Habib, thank you, Liz. So excited to have Liz. We have a celebrity in the house here, Liz Habib. A lot of you have seen her for years on the networks. And thank you, Liz. Thanks for your support. Thanks for your family. Your family's amazing. We've done a lot of work with Liz's family, and thanks so much. I look forward to having you read the book, and thank you for that support. Thank you all for your support. Audiobook is on Audible. Okay, so you should be able to get the audiobook on Audible. And Brett's a brilliant educator in his own right. And thank you so much, everybody. Thanks to my team, which is an enormous team. You have no idea. The team supporting this is 50 strong. And so there's just a lot of support behind this book. That's not counting all of the influencers, all the people promoting this, from Mike Dillard to Brad Sumrock to Ben Kinney and others. Robert Kiyosaki, who wrote the foreword. It is a beautiful, beautiful foreword. Buy the book to read the foreword. I'm not kidding. It's some of the, it is the best foreword of any book I've ever read. Absolutely. So thank you, Joseph. Thank you, Manny. Thanks for all of your support. Just remember that the more wealth you build, the more assets you build, the more money you make, the less tax you pay. It's all about making way more money and paying less taxes. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for your support. And we will see you next time. We're talking about taxes. Thanks very much.